Welcome to this week's episode of the Real Wealth Podcast. It was my pleasure to be joined by Donald Cameron, the other half of the Crypto Glasgow Partnership. I interviewed Declan Kelly last year, so it was great to be able to sit down with his business partner, and we spoke about his maniacal focus on entrepreneurship and building his business, all of the lessons he's learned along the way coming from finance, seeing the broken financial system that we had that propelled his interest in crypto and how they've built a business now, to their plans for the future. And the conversation was one of the longest podcasts we've had so far, where Donald goes really into depth on his mindset, some of the challenges he's had, and we even talk a little bit about mental health and ADHD. So really cool conversation. Pleasure to have him. And without further ado, let's get into it. Donald Cameron, welcome to the Real Wealth Podcast.
Thank you.
I had a really good chat with your co-founder of Crypto Glasgow Deck last year, so I'm really excited to have you here. It was probably one of my best conversations last year, just in terms of the chat. And it's something I'm really interested in, not something we invest in. So thanks a lot for joining us. And
thank you for the invite.
Thanks, crypto.
Thank you. I guess you've kept the best till last, which is always good. But no, like I said, I watched a podcast back recently with Deck, and again, I enjoyed it, which is strange because I don't always enjoy what Deck has to say.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. I know that from my business partners as well.
But no, it was a really good podcast. So I'm excited to be here. So yeah, thanks again for the invite.
I think the obvious place to start, Deck and I had a chat about his history and coming from, his family roofing business, managing some of their investments and then transitioning on. So what's your story that led you into crypto investment?
So banking was my kind of history, I guess. So not at a crazy high level, but I did work notably for Deloitte. That's my kind of most recent kind of employment, should we say. So worked with them for almost 5 years. Worked my way up. It was called a process specialist. So what that was, to try and break it down as easy as possible, was there was a team of about 10 of us, and there was about 400 staff.
Yeah.
So the name kind of suggests process specialist, right? So we specialise in the process, believe it or not. Essentially what we would do is, behind the scenes in the bank, would any processes that needed rewritten, or if the staff member was stuck, didn't know what they were doing, whatever, we were there to help. So that's the kind of long short of it, without getting into the kind of details. But the whole kind of journey from me being in banking to crypto was, I can kind of see how bad, how dirty, how much paperwork is in the bank. Mm-hmm. I then just started to question it. I knew about crypto slightly before then anyway, and we'll touch on that throughout this, but in terms of like the journey previous to crypto, it was just conventional banking, paperwork everywhere. Yeah, it was just like, there must be something better than this.
I mean, obviously the banking system is still very archaic. We see that in our day-to-day lives, because, any simple transaction is... It is mountains of paperwork unnecessarily, and it just baffles me that in the digital age, everything is still so, tough and offline and friction-full.
Well, I just sent a payment last week over to Dubai, just briefly mentioning that, and it took 5 working days to clear. And it's like, it shows on your bank account it's sent, but the receiver hasn't got it until, within 5 working days. So you're in that kind of like period of, is it going to arrive? Yeah. Did I put the IBAN number in properly? Like, if I put the SWIFT code in, it's like, there's so much uncertainty until you get that email. Yep, it's arrived.
And then you have to question when communication can be so quick, so easy, so efficient. You can send a WhatsApp across the world in seconds. Yeah. Then you say, okay, there has to be a game going on with the banks here. Yeah. It can't take this long to transact.
Correct.
Especially digitally, the way things are. And, I mean, I've spoke a lot on this podcast about the banking system, governments, and basically our monetary system, and the fact that from the 1970s, Nixon took off the gold standard. And I heard Robert Kiyosaki say recently that was the death of an empire.
I agree.
Just slowly been dying from that point, when your money is not tied to anything tangible. It's effectively debt.
Yeah, it's in the hands of what they decide.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing, because we know how they deal their business. Like, imagine letting a politician or a government be in charge of literally the thing they use the most, the thing that rules the world.
The thing that they teach you from a very, very young age to strive towards, the reason we do anything in life is to get money.
Correct.
And money is effectively, debt is only as good as the government that issues it. And then you start to wonder, am I just part of this massive Ponzi scheme? Governments can run insolvently. If they were businesses, they'd be shut down and the directors would go to jail.
Yeah.
Yet we're supposed to trust that their currency is the reason why.
It's the way you've explained it sounds crazy, but that's legit how it works. Like, they decide, you're taught, make money, do this, whatever it may be, get a savings account, do all the conventional things that you're taught about money. But the stuff that you actually should know about money, they don't tell you that. Because if you knew that, that's what we say. Like, a lot of the times even just general conversations I'll have with someone in the sauna or whatever it is, it always comes up. I'm that guy. Have you heard about crypto? I'm still that guy. So I always say to people, don't worry about crypto right now. Don't learn about that. Learn about money, because they're like, oh, but I know about money. I deal with money every day. I've got a job. Nah, you know nothing about money. The true underlying, like, what money is. Inflation, how that affects you, all that good stuff that they hide from you. Learn about that, and that's what I always say. Then you'll be like, crypto makes sense.
They're never going to be incentivized to teach that within the school system.
Of course not. That's another reason why I believe that they don't really want crypto to be accepted. As much as now there's a lot more things in place like the ETF and stuff, which I'm sure we'll maybe chat about, but that makes crypto more like normalized, if that makes sense, which we don't want. Technically, we don't actually want that. It's not what Bitcoin's ethos is. It's not what it's supposed to be. But it means that the government, it just shows that the government have kind of had to give in almost. Yeah. Because they're like, there's nothing you can do. It's coming. So whether you get on board or you let it take over. And yeah, unfortunately, that's what's happened, whether we like it or not.
I think anyone that has been through the last few years with COVID, and I kind of hoped, you know, it's probably one of the most overused sayings for, you know, entrepreneurs, digital content is, you know, escaping the system. It's that whole red pill, blue pill matrix style.
The matrix, I want to say that.
Just having your eyes open to the reality of how the financial system works. The fact that it's massively rigged against the average person. The fact that they take you through this education system designed to pump out employees. Employees go into the workforce, create benefit for the economy, but will never get to keep that benefit, because when you stack up all the taxes, the average person is paying something like 70 pence in the pound back to the government in taxes, whether it's income tax, VAT, whether it's all these transaction taxes like buying your house and having to pay stamp duty, whether it's fuel duties, importation taxes on your food and your veg. It's just all stacking up to this massive tax.
And then battle against inflation. Again, inflation's the hidden killer, because you can see tax almost. You don't tend to see inflation, or the normal kind of day-to-day person doesn't see inflation. They just think, oh, things are getting more expensive, that's just the way it is. I got my 4% pay rise last year, that's cool. But it's like, well, actually, inflation was a lot higher than that, so you're not.
And I was looking at this the other day, and it's one that just struck me as such an obvious representation of how badly the cost of living has outstretched, you know, average increase in salary. So even if you take gold, and gold's a good foundational metric because it does tend to go up over time, and you know, it's a deflationary asset. Obviously, that's the basis for Bitcoin, that premise, and we can talk about that in a bit. But you know, the average property price in Scotland in the 1970s was about $4,000. And the price of gold was a couple of hundred or something like that. So it was about 18 ounces of gold to get a property.
Right, okay.
Fast forward to today, gold's at what, like 1,800, something like that?
Yeah, there or thereabouts, yeah.
The average property price in Scotland is 270,000.
Right.
So how many more multiples are you talking about versus 18 back in the 1970s?
I've never thought about it like that.
It's just such an obvious demonstration of how much more expensive things have got. And that's even with an inflationary asset.
Yep.
You know, an asset a deflationary asset that goes up over time.
Yep.
And it's still massively been outstripped by the cost of life.
The crazy thing as well is, again, people like yourself or me or anyone that's in this sort of industry of like finance and housing, they think about that stuff because that's how you're switched on to kind of conduct your business as such. But the day-to-day person working a job, getting a salary, whatever it may be, like, they're paying you that salary to kind of curb your dreams, because you get your bonus, you get your percentage rise, whatever it may be. You're then not thinking about, you've got enough to think about because you've got a manager telling you to do this, you've got a job to go to travel to, you've got traffic, you've got everything else that's going on. So the last thing you want to be working on or thinking about is, what's the price of that? Does that actually, it's a shame.
There's so much in the world that's designed to distract us.
Yes, distractions.
In my earlier years, we were big on football and watching the game and the local team, and like, I get that you've got a sense of ownership there, but it consumes people's lives, and it's a massive distraction from what's really going on. It's like, look at the shiny thing over here where, well, this shit's on fire.
Yeah.
It's easy to see how someone goes through their life without ever really understanding this stuff, without ever really creating any sort of wealth.
I think that's so scary though, because two parts. It's scary and it makes you look like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Because I don't like football. I don't like anything other than trying to learn about something. So to the next man, I'm like a geek, or I'm like the weirdo. Even when I was in banking, I would always talk about crypto. So throughout this podcast, I'll maybe dive into the actual background of how I get into crypto. But in the bank, I was always that crazy crypto guy. So I did look like the weirdo, but it's like fast forward now, and a lot of those people I work with are now clients of mine. Yeah. And the other ones coming to me because not that they strive for more, they're just stuck in, no, I need to work the conventional life, should we say? I hate using those terms, but that's what reality. It's the process that you're meant to go through. Like, you go to school, you go to university, you get a job or a career, whatever it may be. You have a kid, you get married. It's like you happily ever after. Like, that for me is not the norm.
Yeah,
but that is the quote unquote norm for.
And the fact is that the monetary system follows that. So you go to school, get your education, you pay for further education, you start to get yourself in debt to do that.
Correct.
You then want to get a job. You're probably going to be on pretty low pay coming out of even university. I remember the first job that I got offered was about £11,000 a year as a trainee chartered accountant, and I was like, I can't afford to take that.
Wow.
And I think I ended up going with one that was like 19,000. That's after 7 years of education. It's like, it's crazy. But then you want to get a house. You have to you take on debt for that. You want to go to the next stage. Maybe your salary starts to go up. You want a nice car, so you spend it. People are taught to increase their outgoings as their income starts to increase. And it just means you never get anywhere. And then the wife comes along, and then you want a house, and then the kids come along, you need a bigger house. And, it can easily lead to a point where people are having to work in their 60s and 70s. The average pension pot for someone in their 60s in Scotland is about 60-70 grand. That's not enough to see you. That's so scary. Through a couple of years.
Yeah, again, even pension, I've never, obviously being in the bank, they really push you for it. And I'd always been like, nah, not interested. Even now, it doesn't interest me. Like, I'd rather make the money elsewhere in investments, whatever it may be, is use that as my pension pot than rely on a government to then pay me my money back. And look, I know there's benefits and whatever, right? But it just scares me. Like, the conventional world scares me, literally. And that's why why me and Dec have done what we've done, because we're always like, we're scared of the norm, almost.
Yeah. And it's scary when someone frames it to you like that, but the majority of people never take outside perspective on how.
And even when they do hear it, I've learned this a lot from, again, working in the bank and given that kind of similar message. People don't want to hear it. Like, they'll hear it, but they're not taking it in because that's too scary. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. I'll go back to work.
Yep.
And that again scares me, and it's where you could become that crazy man, because you're like, no, listen, like, you have to understand how bad this monetary system is, or the way the government treats you, blah 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 blah, whatever it is. If you're outspoken against it, again, people are like, you're weird.
It would be shocking for people to see the statistics on the amount of people that die shortly after retirement. And there's a syndrome, I always get the name of this wrong, but it's something like tachycardiomyopathy.
I understand why you might get that wrong.
More commonly, broken heart syndrome, and it's basically caused by an enlargement of the heart by increased stress. And majority of time it's coming from a lack of purpose, because you've just given up your job, you have absolutely nothing, and a lack of provision. You don't have the financial means to see you through, the next 10 years or whatever. There's a lot of people dying from that because they haven't understood the system and how to create some wealth for themselves along the way.
And it's easy enough if you just try.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. I said that on a recent podcast. It's like, what if it could turn out better than you can imagine? Yeah. People don't think that way. And another thing I said was, like, if it's possible, make it possible. Very similar words, very easy words and things to think about, but no one actually processes how powerful that can be. Like, just make it possible, because I swear it will turn out better than you can imagine. Just do it. And same again, create wealth somehow, whether it's selling cars, whether it's selling clothes, or maybe not, because I think the government come after you now for doing that on selling your used clothes.
Yeah,
but
the next year.
Yeah, but whatever it is, like there's ways of creating wealth. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be this crypto guy, this property guy, this investment guy. Like there's ways to do it other than the system. But again, yeah, people don't unfortunately think.
It is an absolute truth for us when people come into a network to start investing in property and they want to build some wealth. The hardest thing we have is adjusting their mindset.
Yeah.
It's the hardest hurdle to overcome, because once you've got that part, then the rest of it is just action taken and moving forward. Understand the strategies, get your head in the right place, because most people run up against the first issue with something and that's it.
That's it. Puts them on. Totally. I say quite more recently anyway, because obviously when people speak to me, they instantly go to crypto, money, cars, whatever it may be, and we're talking about wealth and stuff. I think the problem, because I'm really, really big on mindset, it's one of my key things, and it's how me and Dec have actually built Crypto Glasgow as such. If you go back to the earlier days, we'd always be in the gym. We still are talking about it quite openly, but fix your mindset and everything else just makes more sense. But more than recently, what I say is like, wealth is in your head rather than your pocket. Because if it's in your head and you've got the right mindset, your pocket will fill up in the background. Don't worry about that. Don't focus on filling your pockets. Focus on filling your mind with useful information that will inevitably, without even like noticing it or subconsciously to an extent, the wealth will come in your pocket. But yeah, too many people think money and don't think about mindset.
And that's, if you focus too much on the money, then you end up taking short-term decisions, and that is not going to be.
I've been there. And again, this is all just coming from experience as well. It's like, I've been there. When I worked for Deloitte, I was making a lot of money, so it was like, it was easy to earn a lot, spend a lot, and just live that short-term life. Like every month, all right, I'm going to buy this, going to buy that. And then the next month you're thinking, right, I need to work a little bit extra, but if I do, I can get that. And it's great, obviously, at the time, and it's the dopamine hit that you're getting, so it feels normal.
Yeah.
But now, obviously reflecting back on that, if I'd just kept a bit more money and invested into crypto or whatever else, I would be more happier now.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not happy, but I would be happier now in the position than I would have been back then, because it's short term. Yeah. So again, it's experience, and it's stuff you need to go through as an adult, I guess, and as a working man, you need to experience these things. But yeah, I always say that nowadays. It's like, look, just focus on the mindset. Wealth is in your heart and your mind, not in the pocket, because it's so important.
Was there a point, so going back to your time at Deloitte, and you obviously became the crypto guy there.
Yeah.
Was there a moment there that changed your mindset, or was there a pressure point where you felt like, I need to do something different here, that started you on the journey? Because you tend to find there's two reasons why entrepreneurs follow it. It's inherently in them, and they just want more from life, so they start down a journey that kind of opens their eyes.
Yeah.
Or there's a moment in time that sparks a change, right?
So I'll even date back even further than Deloitte, and I'll give you my kind of crypto story, because I think it all ties in. So first of all, to cover one of the points you said there, like, I think it's just in me. I'm a natural winner. Whatever I'll do, and me and Dick were the same. We would buy and sell jackets, anything we could, just to make a little bit extra money, whatever it may be. But taking you back a little bit to help kind of paint the picture. So previous to Deloitte, I worked for Santander. So again, just kind of general banking, nothing kind of fancy as such. But this was back in 2012 or 2013. There was a boy in one of the teams who was massive on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have a clue about it. And another boy in our team who was massive on precious metals. So every lunchtime, one would talk about Bitcoin, one would talk about precious metals, and I was just talking about doing overtime to buy like a G-Star t-shirt or something. Like back then it was cool to buy like G-Star, Geogoy, like all like the brands back then. I was like, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. I just want a new t-shirt. Anyway, so that's when I first heard about it. Again, always battling back and forward between gold, whatever it was, and Bitcoin. I didn't do anything with it back then, with that information, but it was there. It was in the head somewhere. It was logged. So then fast forward to 2017, I'd worked for Deloitte at the time, and another person had brought up Bitcoin, and I was like, let me tell you a story. Told him the same story, and he's like, yeah, I bought some, and I've ended up like doing really well from it, paying off my mum's mortgage, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, I fancy that. This was early 17. I was like, right, when I get paid this month, I'm going to buy some. I didn't buy some, obviously. I probably bought another pair of shoes or something back then. Again, just in that mindset of quick money. Then fast forward a couple of months later, crypto started to move a little bit at that time back in 2017, and I was like, right, I missed it. So I'm going to get in this time. So yeah, first get invested kind of middle or kind of end 2017, can't quite remember.
Yeah.
And it really, since then, because I had skin in the game, it was just, right, it's time to switch on and really focus on this. I've already heard about it twice, but did nothing with that information other than just take it in and log it. So yeah, it really stemmed from then. So it wasn't like, I guess that was probably the moment where things changed. Because I was invested, I kind of was forced to learn more about it.
Yeah.
But I almost fast-tracked it a little bit because I already knew about it. So I knew that this was what I wanted to do. And again, throughout that whole period of working for Deloitte, the position I was in, like I said, it was quite a kind of senior position. So the guys on my team were all doing their kind of mortgage stuff. They were like, right, after this job, I'm going to go work here. I'm going to try and get in Barclays and whatever it may be. And I was just thinking, like, this is my last employment. I'm not interested. Like, and bear in mind, Bitcoin and crypto had not moved. Like, I think at the time, Bitcoin was like $4,000 or $5,000. Like, it was still like in the gutter as such. Yeah. People were still talking really badly on it because it was 2017, 2018. It just hit its all-time high of 20k back then. So it was on the way down. So no one was interested in it. But then there's me. Have you heard about Bitcoin? And everyone's like, yeah, okay, mate, cool. Like, good luck with that.
What gave you the confidence in Bitcoin at that time? 'Cause it was early on.
Because I knew about it twice before. So one, back in 2013 with that boy, because I'm sure the boy had something like, it was either $70,000 worth or 70,000 Bitcoin. I can't remember the exact. So I was like, right, well, he's pretty deep in it. Didn't really know what it meant, but I know he's got a lot of whatever it is. Then again, when that boy told me that he paid his mum's mortgage off, I was like, okay, hang on a minute. So subconsciously, that's been logged and processed in my head. It wasn't really clicking. So I think maybe that, like I said, has maybe helped me fast track my, I'm in this. And I guess just working in the banks, just knowing how the banks work. Because in Santander, I used to be on the phones and answering the phones, but I'd be obviously looking through the systems and just seeing the behind the scenes stuff that a normal person wouldn't ever see, how the banks work and stuff. So I guess all that subconsciously was just part of, I need to find something else.
What was the conclusion you'd drawn about the bank at that point through those kind of...
So no, I wouldn't say, I still wouldn't like bad mouth banks because there's a massive need for a bank.
Yeah.
They rule the world for a start, plus I couldn't get a mortgage without a bank.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons, good, positive reasons for banks. I would never ever kind of talk badly as such, but it was more just because it was like, right, cool, I know what crypto's trying to do and what the possibilities are. I know what the bank does and what the possibilities are. It's like, I kind of favour more of, like, I'm a future thinker. I like the latest stuff, whether it's cars, AI. I love the latest technology.
Yeah.
And crypto's basically just a technology at the end of the day. So it just kind of, that interests me. And I can make money from it. I can learn a new skill, essentially. And it's tech and it's new. I'm like, that works for me.
Yeah.
Again, these are all subconscious thoughts though, because there was never a time where I would go home and go, right, do you know what? I'm into this crypto thing now. It was just, I'm just doing this.
It was more organic over time.
And that's how the business has developed as well. We've never really had any business plan, any kind of meetings, right, we're going to do this. It's always just been super organic.
Yeah.
We don't, unfortunately, are able to do any like promotional work because Facebook and Insta ban crypto.
All right, wow.
Yeah, so we can't do any promotion. So everything's just self-promotion. It's word of mouth. It's all organic. So yeah, there's never been a turning point. It's always just been, this is what I do daily.
It's a similar journey for me with my business partner, Laurie. We never intended to be in business together. It just kind of organically grew towards
Which is so much better, I feel.
It is because, you're recognizing as you go that this works.
Correct.
Rather than an enforced kind of, right, we have a partnership now, we need to try and make it work.
Yeah. But they always say never go in business with like a friend or a family member, but me and Dec are best of friends, 15, probably longer than that now, 15 years. We have our arguments, but because we're so similar and because it was so organic, and it's not like we are business partners, sign this dotted line, it's just we are in this business together. So
very early on in our property journey, one of my closest friends, kind of best man at my wedding, was wanting to do a joint venture with me, wanting to get into business with me in property, and I said no.
Right.
And Laurie and I have been friends for years as well, so it wasn't necessarily on the basis of the friendship, it was more on the basis that we are effectively the same person.
Right. Okay.
In terms of the way we approach things, the skills that we have, those things for me were not going to help build a business that could grow and move, because I needed someone that represented the things that I don't have.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of Laurie came in because we're so different.
Yeah.
We share similar values, which is obviously really important. But in terms of our skill set, he's got this whole bunch of skills that I couldn't dream of being able to achieve. And because of that combination, it just kind of works.
I feel like that's the same with me and Dex. It's kind of like the yin and yang effect almost. It's like there are strengths that I have, strengths that he has, and it just works. Obviously, I'm a lot more skillful, right? That's natural. But Dex, there to pick up the pieces. No, in all seriousness though, like, it's the exact same setup. We've never thought about it like that. But it's when people always say, oh, you never work with your friends and family. But it's like, nah, I think if you just get it and you're just that type of person, you get the same values. Yes, you'll have differences, but those differences actually benefit the business at times as well, because maybe you'll want to make a call and it's like, nah, do you know what, let's pause. Maybe I wouldn't, or whatever it may be. On reflection, it turns out to be a great decision. So 100% it works so well. And it's because of the organic, I believe anyway, because of the organic business rather than, okay, we are now partners, let's work this business. Like, nothing.
It's a weird situation for anybody.
Yeah.
So, no, it's really good advice, and it's advice we've given before on the podcast for anybody that's looking to start a business and do a partnership.
And it's hard, like, it's great advice, but it's hard for some people to take that because they might not have someone in their life. Yeah. So they feel like they have to go find that joint partner. But and that's what it does. Maybe it works for a few years and then there's differences. And it's a shame. You do see it quite often. Sometimes it's just what the universe had planned for you. Maybe you just weren't supposed to do that joint venture.
One thing I would say though is I genuinely couldn't imagine having to deal with the amount of problems and challenges that come up in business on my own.
Yeah.
Like, massive credit to anybody that can do that.
Yeah.
I do know some kind of solo entrepreneurs that built big businesses, and I just don't know how you do it.
Well, that's why they look 60 when they're like 40 though.
Yeah, that's actually a very true statement given the people I'm thinking about.
Yeah. It's funny that when you compare it, like these old school like entrepreneurs and stuff, you usually get like a Bentley, they usually look a little bit older, they usually dress really well, but it's like because they're trying to relive or make up the time they left behind because of stress. But yes, maybe that's what it is, I don't know, but it makes sense having someone else that kind of, I don't know, partner up with the stress to make it a little bit easier. So
absolutely makes a massive difference. So when Deck was here, him and I, we spent quite a bit of time talking about Bitcoin and sort of the premise of Bitcoin, because, as I said to him at the time, we're not currently invested in crypto. It's something I'm really interested in.
You're still, after that podcast, you're still not invested.
And there's some really good business reasons why. Our business has expanded a lot within the last 12 months, which has taken, sort of cash flow requirements anytime you're growing. But we're definitely getting to a point where we're going to be exploring other investment, and crypto's right up there. I'm 100% on board with you guys when it comes to, the concerns over the monetary system, the way that government runs, and Bitcoin is just a really good opportunity to diversify away from all of that. Correct. So I massively get that, and I love the premise of it that it's essentially like going back to the gold standard, where it's built on the premise of that limited supply. You have to mine for it. It's not something that can be just imagined through a spreadsheet like money. Do you think Bitcoin acts in a similar way in terms of the investment when, because gold tends to do quite well in bad economic situations? Is Bitcoin similar to that, or still runs its...
We don't know. So the reason I say that, right, is you think about it, Bitcoin was only brought out 2009. So it was brought out because of the financial crisis.
Yeah.
So it's never been through a financial crisis, if you think about it. It was created off the back of one. So this is something that some people, or me personally, think anyway, is I used to fall into this category where it's like Bitcoin's a digital gold. But when you actually look at it and compare it to like the NASDAQ, S&P 500 and tech stocks, Bitcoin moves like a tech stock.
Right.
More than gold.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you compare it to a digital store of wealth, i.e. gold, which is normally coined the store of wealth as gold? Well, actually, if you look at it, like the way, like I said, the way it moves, it doesn't move like gold at all. It moves like a tech stock. So when S&P performs, Bitcoin performs. Right. When S&P doesn't perform, trust me, Bitcoin doesn't perform. So it's like, it's a very weird setup. And to go back to your kind of question, it's like, we don't know because we haven't quite yet, which I do believe is potentially coming, or we're kind of living through this weird like market crash upwards. I don't really know what's going on at the moment.
Recession, but not a recession.
And so I think we're kind of in that moment just now, which will be a real test, which is actually Bitcoin's first test.
Yeah.
Because we've only really ever known it to go up. But again, most people nowadays, I mean, the financial crisis 2008, 2009, most people my age, I'm 31, so most people my age didn't really experience the financial crash because we were still, or just left school or whatever. So we've never experienced it. We've only known up because the stock market and the housing market, every market's only gone up since then.
And that's a really important point, because we do have this generation of people, and I'm late 30s, so you know I'm 8 years ahead of you there. But still, for me as an adult, all I've ever known is low interest rates.
Yeah.
And that's getting a lot of people in trouble just now, because if you're in your early to mid 30s and you've started to make a bit of money and you've bought a big house and you've bought it on the basis of these low interest rates, which have been artificially low since 2008.
Yep.
You're about to be hit with a harsh reality.
That's why you're seeing so many people, or so many properties in the market, which is great for guys like yourself, because it's like there's a flood of property, which means prices might come down a little bit because there's a kind of a supply in the housing market. But it's so true. And I got a mortgage 2 years ago, almost 4% or whatever it was, low percentage. But I was speaking to my dad about it, and he's like, I remember paying 10, 14%, whatever it was. I'm like, nah, no chance. That doesn't exist. But it's the harsh realities now. And
but the comparative cost of properties versus earnings was much lower back then, so it was more sustainable. You get to that level now, everybody would be sunk.
Yeah, it's again, it goes back to the system that we live in that no one seems to pay attention to, because it's too much effort. I don't want to know about that. Oh no, I'm too busy. It's like, you're not too busy. Like, you're too busy to learn about how your money works. Like, are you for real? That's probably why you have stress in your life. This is another thing I come up against a lot. It's like, I really care about freedom. How do you get freedom? Well, you need to think about money. You need to care about money. But you're kind of battling between, I guess, arrogance and just intelligence to an extent. Because if you're super into making money, how money works, trying to do better for yourself, not because you want to fancy cars, that's like a byproduct at times and depending on who you are as a person. But the reason you're chasing that money, you're chasing business, whatever it may be, is like, you want the freedom at the end of the day. The fancy things just come. But
money is the biggest control mechanism.
It's insane. But then people call you arrogant because all you care about is money. It's like, no, I don't actually care about money, because money's, again, probably a byproduct. I know I've mentioned that word a few times, but it's a byproduct of mindset and freedom. And when you ask anyone how much money, I'd love to have £1 million. And it's like, yeah, but just saying that is not going to help you get that £1 million, because it's
the reality is, if you've not been through the mindset changes required to make £1 million, then if you're given £1 million, you're probably going to lose it. You just need to look at the statistics, the amount of lottery winners that go bust.
It's really even footballers as well, because they're getting this big cash payout, and they're just guys who want to play football. All of a sudden they're getting millions of pounds thrown at them. So that's why, lottery winners again. I'd love to win the lottery. I would hate to win the lottery. Like, imagine getting like 10 million quid. We were quite good actually, to think of it, but getting 10 million quid if you didn't know anything about money. You'd blow it and you feel like an idiot. So
absolutely.
But again, they want you to do that. That's what I feel like. I'm very tinfoil hat. So I feel like almost the lottery is, because think about it, where's the money getting spent? It's getting put back to the economy. So if some crazy guy wins it, fantastic, because the money's getting spent quick. He's not reinvesting it. So it's actually,
I always feel like it's a tax on hope. You know, you look at these, dystopian views of the world where, I can't remember what it's called, like the island where, they get to win the big lottery and they get to leave and go to this amazing place. And it wasn't real. It's keeping the hope within people.
Well, it's another distraction. I mentioned at the start of this, it's like you mentioned about distractions. That's another distraction. I feel like the lottery is a distraction because people spend a fortune on it, have set up direct debits and all that. That's insane. But then they moan about not having money. And it's like, well, there's a very minimal chance you'll ever win the lottery. But my neighbour won it one time, so he lived around the corner from me, so that means I might win it. And it's like, come on, man. But again, it's a distraction too, because you won't learn about where that money's going, what's actually going on in the background. So it's a scary, scary place to live in this world of ours.
Absolutely. But, there are some glimmers of hope within it if you open your eyes to it.
Definitely.
So Bitcoin, we talked about the fact that it's performing more like some of the S&P type trackers. Do you have a vision in your head of how you think Bitcoin is going to evolve as it goes forward, as we learn more about it? Obviously, my understanding of it was Bitcoin was originally created for kind of easy, frictionless international transactions, taking you off the grid somewhat, but also through the blockchain, very transparent. It's not kind of landed like that, at least for the moment, because of the volatility of it, and the fact is it's used more as sort of an investment tool. Do you think that'll always be the case, or do you think there is going to be a time where it stabilizes and becomes...
It's a good question, because I don't think about it too much, and the reason I don't is I don't like to live in the future. I love the future, I've mentioned that already, and I love what's coming and stuff, but thinking like that doesn't help the present. So the way I treat it is I understand its possibilities, so I understand that it's possible for all that to happen. Maybe not so much with Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin blockchain is very slow in comparison. So that's why you now have altcoins, alternative assets to Bitcoin, because they're trying to speed up the processes and whatever it may be. So,
but is it not a deliberate move that it's slow? Because they could increase the size of the blocks, right?
Nah, so I guess so, but the manpower behind that would probably just not be worth it in terms of so technically yes, because if there's more miners on the networks, then yes, it's faster. But the way Bitcoin in particular is set up is it's very coded, where it's like it takes this amount of time, there's this many questions at once. So it's you could, but I wouldn't speed up that much having another million people on the network. That's why altcoins or alternative assets to to Bitcoin became a thing. Yeah, because they can do speedier transactions and whatever. So
what are your views on Bitcoin Cash is the one that comes to mind, because there was a lot of controversy.
Yeah,
and the fact is, for a lot of novice investors coming in, it could be confused.
Yeah, right? Because it looks the same, but it's cheaper. There's loads. It was like Bitcoin Diamond, there was Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Cash. They're all just called hard forks. So it's similar to how an altcoin works, where they're using the similar kind of technology, whereas these hard forks of Bitcoin are using the exact same ledger blockchain as Bitcoin. So they're still just as slow and whatever. And what you tend to find is, again, some novice guys will be like, right, well, Bitcoin's this much, but I can get something called Bitcoin Cash for this price. I'm going to buy that. Yeah, but it's not the same. It's
not Bitcoin.
So the whole point of Bitcoin is no one knows who created it, and it's all this kind of mysterious aspect. Whereas someone physically created Bitcoin Cash, there's a owner, there's a person behind it. Again, goes away from the kind of ethos of what Bitcoin is. So I don't bother with any of that. It's more the hard asset itself. But yeah, they might be a little bit quicker and whatever, because there's less people on the network, therefore the transaction may be quicker. But governments aren't going to use Bitcoin SV or Bitcoin Diamond. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. But for an investment standpoint, it could be beneficial for someone.
Right.
Not financial advice, obviously. Anyone's watching this.
We always get that in it.
Probably should that. Nothing's financial advice on this. But no, in all seriousness, people could look at that as an investment because it's a lower price, but it sounds like the same thing. Yeah. But when you're a crypto person or an investor or someone that believes in the actual fundamentals, that's nonsense. That's just fluff at the end of the day. Yeah. So
what would be your advice for someone that's starting out in crypto?
So as I briefly mentioned and throughout this, it's like, don't worry about crypto right now. Worry about what's in your pocket. Worry about the current financial system. So I usually say go watch a few documentaries on Netflix, Amazon Prime. There's a lot. There's maybe 2 or 3 that I usually recommend. And it's just go, even like The Big Short. You've probably seen, everyone's seen The Big Short. So that's a really famous one. But go watch stuff like that first. Yeah. Understand what happened in 2008 and why now. Again, like you said earlier, it's like people of our age have only ever known up. And low interest rates and whatever it is, but there's a reason for that. Yeah.
There's a really good movie. It was a documentary. I think it was Charles Ferguson, Inside Job.
Yes, that's another good one.
Matt Damon,
that's right.
It, and it's great because it really does help people understand what happened in 2000.
The other one I would say is The Men Who Stole the World. Yeah. That's on Amazon Prime, I'm sure. Again, it's the stock market stuff. So it's, again, go watch that stuff. There's one on Netflix. I may as well just give them all out on this, on my secrets on this podcast. But the Dirty Money episode on Netflix, the HSBC one, blew my mind. Yeah. Like, because you know about that, or you think you know about that, but it's like, wow, there's hard facts. Yeah. And it's funny as well, because once you know about that, the whole thing about crypto is, it's people hiding money, it's this, it's funding this. It's like, well, hang on a minute, go watch this documentary and then come back to me, because your bank's doing it 10 times what anyone in crypto would do it, because crypto, you can see it publicly. Why would I want to fund a cartel publicly on a ledger when, like, you could go track that? There's ways of finding that, whereas banks are doing it hundreds of millions of dollars. So yes, that's some of the stuff I would say is definitely learn about money first. And usually when I say that to people, they're like, oh, hang on a minute, you're the crypto guy, why are you talking about the current financial system? But as I've said, it's like, you need to understand that first for there to be a real need and reason for crypto to exist. So
understanding how bad the status quo is can really lead people to, you know, look at the alternatives. And
correct.
And this is binary, and that opportunity is, you know, crypto is a massive alternative to the traditional monetary system, which is massively flawed.
Yeah, and it's why I get so passionate when I speak about crypto. And again, I go back to that talking to the guys in the sauna or whatever. You can see them kind of switching off sometimes, but I'm like, you got me started. Like, I'm just so passionate about it. And it's not, I don't try and sign anyone up to anything that I do. I don't care about the business that I run at the time. I just care so much about crypto in general. And you might be the same when you talk about property and stuff, rather than, oh, I've got a business, I can help you out. That's not what I'm interested in. It's just, I just find it so interesting that people don't find it interesting because they don't have time, or they've, oh, I'm here to relax, or I've got work tomorrow, or whatever it is. Oh, I make a good wage. Exactly. There's so many distractions. It's scary. But look, I fall for them as well. Like, we all fall for them. But as long as you can catch yourself out, and as long as you're doing something in the background, whether it's investing, the distractions are usually a good thing.
Another one I find with people is, you know, when they're thinking about starting to get into this stuff, or thinking about starting to get investment, they kind of hear one bad thing about it, and then that's it, I'm writing it off. You know, and you know, crypto is obviously a big one there, because you've got all these other Netflix documentaries like Bitcoin.
That's right.
That would terrify people into, oh my God, it's all a fugazi. It's like, just keep away from it.
It's funny that the Bitcoin and whatever it may be is on Netflix. What do most people like that work a 9 to 5, a conventional kind of, I don't know, normal person, should we say? Because I never feel like I'm normal. So when I say a normal person, you know, what do they do when they go home from work? They usually go on Netflix with their partners, whatever it is, and they'll just stick on whatever it is. But the fact that they may have maybe heard about Bitcoin, their partner's like, oh, that's that thing you're into, let's watch it. Then she's like, oh, hang on a minute, that you're not putting your money into that because I've just seen this documentary. So it's that whole mind control of again, who controls Netflix? Who owns Netflix? Like, there's a bigger reason behind this. Who paid for that documentary? So it's like, it's never going to be a Bitcoiner who wants to spread the word of how bad this place is. They'll never put positive things on Netflix.
No.
You need to go to YouTube or guys like us who just seem crazy. But it's like, if you listen, it can change your life, literally.
Well, you know, it's just simply the fact that if you're trying to do something that is out with the norm, you can't go to the norm to get that information.
Of course not.
On Netflix,
this is the problem. I guess I've got a big kind of thing about media as well, like Daily Mail and whoever it may be. Like, who owns them? Like, people need to understand, again, I treat everything in this world as a business. So whether I'm at the shops, whether I'm at swimming pool, whatever it is, I want to know who owns this place. Why do they own it? What's the turnover? Like, I'm treating everything as a business. Why do they get so many staff? They must make good. So I'm constantly like analysing daft things. Like that notepad you've got there, I'm probably thinking, right, hang on, so there's money in that, you know, so
what's
people,
the margin?
But not normal people as such don't do that. And they just, I mean, because they're distracted. Maybe that's what it is. It's like,
be the curse of an entrepreneur as well, because it's not easy to switch off and just enjoy the surroundings of the swimming pool when you're thinking about the economics of it.
It's tough. I've got ADHD. I don't like to talk about it too much because I actually don't believe in ADHD. This is a topic maybe for another
labels
conversation
for me as well. Like, hate the way
see, I won't touch on it too much, but I wanted to bring it up because anyone that does have it or thinks they have it, because that seems to be the new hype right now, is like, oh, I've got ADHD. No, you don't. But that also doesn't help the fact that I'm an entrepreneur and I'm in this business, because I'm constantly switched on and never switch off. Even when I try and switch off to watch something, I'm on my phone or I'm thinking about something else. I'm tuned into something, watching it, but I'm still thinking about something else. So all of that doesn't help. But yeah, like I said, I don't actually believe in ADHD, which is a topic for another day. But the quote unquote like label also then plays in your mind when you come to things like this, because you're always thinking about something else. Yeah. But it's a positive because it's kind of helps.
No, I
thinking about 10 things at once helps. So
I mean, just getting people to start thinking.
That's it. I know.
Rather than just going through this daily program that they have, where they do this and they do that, and everything becomes automatic.
Yeah, it's scary, man. Scary.
It's the world. So last time I didn't get a lot of time to talk to Dec about Crypto Glasgow and what you guys do. So I'm really interested to talk about more about that. Genuinely, I have quite a lot of friends who are investing in crypto, and they all know about you guys. Some of them are part of your network.
Amazing.
It's really great what you built, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about it and what led to Crypto Glasgow.
Of course. First of all, I appreciate that, and it's always good to speak to new people because we're an online business, right? Yeah. We forget the influence we have, or the followers that we have, or the members that we have, because it's just numbers on a screen at times.
Yeah, it's not like you're in a physical event and you've got 150 people.
We've thought about that so much, because it's like if you were to put our Discord community into a room, that's a scary number. Like, it'd be a presence you feel. So, it's first of all, it's cool to hear that. I get it all the time, and again, it never really clicks. I get it, and when I go for a sauna and stuff, I always relate back to that because I'm never out the sauna. That's why I always bring it up. Yeah. But there's always someone who recognises me, and it's like, oh, this is crazy. Still to this day. Anyway, sorry to go off on one there, but
no.
The whole kind of point of the business was I was invested in crypto since 2017, as I mentioned to Dec about it. He got invested at the same time, so we had been doing this crazy world prior to Crypto Glasgow. Yeah. It wasn't until lockdown when I was out of work. Dec was out of work, obviously, or not working as much. So people were still asking me about crypto though, because they knew I was that crazy crypto guy.
Yep.
And because of what happened in the March 2020 with stocks and assets and whatever and crypto, people then started to hear more about Bitcoin because it had crashed naturally. See, I told you not to do that. Like, it's crashed, blah, blah, blah. So it was more just the fact that we were getting more questions daily of people wanting to know about it. I think Dec maybe touched on this slightly on his episode, but we just kind of Googled, like, it's so random, like, what's the highest paying jobs? And it was consultants, and we're like, right, we know about crypto, and people were basically asking us for to consult them, essentially. Yeah. Boom, Crypto Consultancy Glasgow. Like, there was no real, again, there's never been a business plan, never to this day. So there's no real plan, right, we'll get a business, we'll get a name, we'll do this, we'll do that. We were driving home from Inverness, thought of that, got back to my flat, got the notepads out, put the music on, we're like, right, let's see what happens. And then what you see now is what happened. So it's quite cool.
Has it evolved over time? Or
incredibly? Yeah, like I said, it's all just organic as well, which is so cool. We just meet the demand. So we see what's needed and we fill that demand. And I feel like that's, again, a good way for businesses to work, because we've done a lot of things over the years where we've tried to like plan it and like, right, people would love this. It sinks. Yeah. So whereas we've done stuff just off the cuff, or we think, right, there's a demand there, let's fill it. Boom, it blows. So it just works for us, and it's why we've never sat down and decided to do a business plan or make a business model. It's all just what you see now is what is needed. So yeah, so it started off just as a consultancy. So we'd do like a 30-minute phone call, and that was pretty much it. You would just ask us all these questions about crypto. Then we started at this moment, our famous IGTV. So we go live every single week. Yeah. And that's what really helped build our social presence, because no one was doing it the way we were doing it. So every Thursday at 7 p.m, 7:30 p.m, if I was late or Dec was late, we would go live just from our phone. It started off in my flat. I'll tell you this story, which is really funny. So Dec would hold the phone, no one would be watching, right? Because no one really went live back then. It wasn't really a thing to do. So Dec would be on the phone, I'd be standing behind him. So the whole point of it was a Q&A, but there is no A without the Q, right? So what used to happen, and I think the videos might still be on our Instagram if you go deep, but I used to like look at the phone as if I was reading a question out. Yeah. So I'd be like, what is the price of Bitcoin? Good question, right? So, but no one was there. But the whole point of it was, I'm totally revealing my secrets here, but the whole point of it is we wanted people to watch it back rather than the live part. So when people watched it back, they could see that people were asking questions. Yeah. So it really started off as that. and then really built up a massive following.
It's so true, this story though of like, entrepreneurs starting out, and there is a little bit of, there's always going to be a little bit of trying to fake it
till you make it. Yeah.
Laurie and I done those live Q&As early on as well, and ours never really got any traction because we just didn't put enough focus in it.
Right.
But it was like that. You maybe have 2 or 3 people watching. Sometimes it'd be 20, but no one would ask questions.
Yeah, because they're just watching.
So you had to come loaded with the questions.
That's right.
Before, and but you can see, it's just a commitment of perseverance to get these things.
Well, that's it. Because, like I said, like we didn't really have anyone when we were kind of coming up through our journey. There was 1 or 2 guys that we did watch, and they would do some videos and stuff, but it wasn't quite to our level. But we obviously took parts of that, and we're like, right, that's quite cool. No one's doing that. Let's put our spin on it.
Yeah.
And me and Dec, the reason we work so well, I believe, is we just were very naturally kind of, we spoke about before, the same values, but we bounce off each other really, really well.
Yeah.
So I know what he's going to say, he knows what I'm going to say, so it works. It's a good synergy as such. So the lives were always just a laugh. Like, it was never meant to be anything serious. At times I'd have a hat on, like it was just so casual. It just then grew arms and legs. Like, it then became like a Netflix series. We used to get like hundreds of people tuning in. People were like, because we ended up building a Telegram and stuff, and like a membership and a community. People, can't wait for Thursday, buzzing for 7 p.m. Are they live yet? Like, it was crazy for us because we're just these 2 boys from Glasgow just videoing ourselves. And again, like I said, no one on Instagram was really doing that at the time.
It's a funny thing seeing something take off because, there's never any formula to it, and if someone asked you to repeat it, it can just be a whole mix, like a cocktail of the right time, the right format, the right message, the right sentiment, in the sort of wider public. It's such a hard thing for an entrepreneur to pin down what creates it,
We definitely, timing was on our side for sure. It was lockdown, everyone was at home, everyone was on their phones. Yeah. There was money floating about because all these stimulus checks and free money that people were getting, quote unquote. So that was a perfect recipe because 1, no one was doing what we were doing. 2, we had natural energy on live, so it was fun, it was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
3, you were actually learning something. 4, it was about investing and making money, so that instantly gets people interested.
Yeah.
But to back all that up, when we again go back to like what was happening in the financial world, it was mad. Like, that's when the bull run of crypto really started. That's when things really started taking off. So we were building this business talking about crypto, which was becoming a hot topic at the time.
Yeah.
We were the only ones doing what we were doing, so it was just a perfect timing, essentially. We never planned that. Yeah. It's, again, the universe had a plan for us. Yeah. The universe had a plan for crypto, and we just happened to fall into the hands of it. So,
I think the story comes back to building a community around your business, and that's where things can be quite powerful because investment can be a lonely game. If you just
that's another huge part of what we then moved into the community aspect after about 6 months. I think I can't remember the exact dates, maybe shorter than that. We decided to start like a Telegram group just to get people involved. Because what you were finding, like one of my good friends, Fraser, he ended up meeting one of his old friends on our live stream because they were both commenting, and then after, like, oh mate, I seen you on that live stream, and then they kind of rekindled their friendship because no one else spoke about crypto in their area. Yeah. So then we were like, right, hang on a minute, there's something here, and then it's still at this day, like our community is massive, and whenever we do meetups or we talk to them, it's like, oh, I don't know anyone in crypto. So that's why the community is so strong, because it is that lonely space. And some people don't actually like to be known to be into crypto as well, which is a very secretive place.
Because, the reality is we live in Scotland and everybody's negative as fuck.
Yeah, literally.
The Scottish demeanour is not good. Anytime someone talks about investment, they're going to be hit with, oh, I know someone that did that once and it was a disaster, or oh, that's a scam, that's a pyramid scheme. We're just very fucking negative.
Yeah, basically the thing I say to that is like, you're right, because everything is a scam. Everything is a pyramid scheme, but it's like, where do you position yourself in that scam, in that pyramid scheme? Like, there's ways to make money from all these bad things, but the problem, the people that don't make the money from it are the ones that then spread that negative word. It's like bad news always spreads quicker, but there's someone making money, or there's multiple people making money from whatever that is.
This all goes back to people sitting in their comfort zone, and getting threatened by other people moving out of it. You know what I mean? That is just the nature of human beings. And unless, again, going back to the mindset stuff, unless you take care of that and realize that you're backing yourself, you know, and you only take advice from people that actually know what the fuck they're talking about, not just some random punter in the pub that thinks they know.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be difficult to move forward.
It's hard, man. Think of the weather conditions as well. Like, that's a massive part. Like, when me and Dave were out in Dubai last month, and literally we were only there for 5 or 6 days, but it opens your mind up so much because you're getting the benefits of the sun. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. So I get it that people are like that in this country, but then I'm not like that. So what different? Like, the weather's not different, but it doesn't just the sun doesn't shine wherever I walk. Yeah, I wish it did sometimes, but I just make it different, and I just make the point of, no, I'm fixing my mindset here. But again, it's people who are stuck.
Purpose, right? You found purpose.
I believe
bring value and, you know, something that drives you.
Yeah, and business aspect and the business side 100%, and that's what keeps me going. But then you've got all the other things of your personal life you need to try and keep together as well, and then try not let that leak into business. And then your mindset might be really not poor, but might be down on the personal aspect. But then for your business, you're still very like on it and switched on. So it's, the mind is a crazy thing to try and master. That's the only thing you can master, and that's one of the big things. It's like, you cannot control anything, literally anything else in this world other than your mind. Yep. Why would you not try and focus on that than other people, your job, your car? Like, again, I said it earlier on this podcast, it's like, fix your mindset. Like,
I genuinely feel like the worst condition for the human race is those that feel like they're a victim of patterns, because it you know, you can see how that leads to depression, because if you feel like nothing is within your control, that's a very scary place.
The other problem with that, right, is and depression and feeling down and anxiety, whatever it may be, is like, you're actively told to talk about it. Yeah. You talk about something that's quite depressing, how do you feel? You feel quite depressed, eh? So why would you be encouraged, or why should you be encouraged to talk about those feelings? Don't get me wrong, you should speak out and you can speak to someone and get help, whatever, but you get like counsellors as such that are like, I don't know, I feel like they're, again, my tinfoil hat, that's part of the system. It's like, keep you in that depressive mindset where they can feed you the tablets. Again, they can make money from that, the governments, and so on and so forth. So
I was listening to a podcast the other day about this, you know, and just the massive epidemic of, you know, depression, and the fact that most of the treatments they have for depression, including pills and therapy, you know, they just don't work. The statistics are there.
It is factually kind of true that they don't fix. It's the same with ADHD. I was on medication for about 6 months and I came off it because I was like, this is just mask. I'm putting a plaster on a gunshot wound almost. It's like, this doesn't help. This is, again, it's factually true that those tablets cannot fix your depression or fix your ADHD. It's a control mechanism. Yep. Plus, the other thing they put into you as well is, oh, if you come off them, then you might need to come off them slowly. You might not feel great. You might slip back into it. And it's like, you're putting that fear in someone that's already fearful for their life. Yeah. What do you expect? So again, it's like, it's something that I feel quite passionately about, because you see so many people in that place where they're stuck on it.
I mean, I had a really small example of this last year, but I never take pills for anything. You know, my leg could be falling off and I wouldn't take it. I just never have. But I had cracked one of my wisdom tooth last year, and it was agony. Agony. So I was taking painkillers every day for it, and because I was taking the painkillers, I didn't go to the dentist and just deal with it. Wow. And I was waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, having to take a painkiller because the pain was back, and breaking my sleep and not getting back to sleep. And I was functioning through that. Wow. But it wasn't until 2 months down the line, when I got the tooth out, I realised I've not been functioning at all.
It's like, a distraction too.
I have been like a shell of myself for the last 2 months because I've let this, and all I had to do was go to the dentist and get it out. But because I had this pill, and I never take painkillers, but I was popping them every day just because of this tooth. It's ridiculous.
Well, you imagine that, but someone's been treated for depression and they're on it for 10, 15, maybe the rest of their life. They're never their true self. And I felt that. So when I was going through the whole process of being diagnosed and getting medication, I remember saying to the psychiatrist, I'm like, I don't want these forever. Like, I don't want to be...
Where's the end game?
Yeah, and he's like, look, I get it, but here you go, kind of thing. And he was very much on my side. It wasn't like an NHS, it was a private guy I went to. So he was very much on my side. Look, try them, see how you feel. But me being that, I mean, I don't mind taking paracetamol, whatever. I'm not at maybe your level of like, I'm not touching anything. Just breathe air and you'll be fine. But I was taking them, I'm just like, it was annoying me having to take them because I'm relying on something to make me feel normal.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, I was already normal. I now just had this label, therefore I'm not normal. Therefore, take these pills and you'll be normal. But reflecting back on that time, that was probably the worst 6 months of my life. So much changed in that 6 months in terms of how I was as a person.
Yeah.
Why is, I mean, I'm just one of the lucky ones who realised that was happening. Well, I realised after it, but reflecting on it, rather than just going through with it and getting back on them and just staying in that whole, I don't know, that spiral of being fed pills. It's so scary. I know that this podcast took a bit of a right turn here, but again, it's mindset, and
it did, and I wouldn't have really been able to understand this properly until that experience I had last year, or even although it's just a painful tooth.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until afterwards I realised how much of a shell of myself I'd been in the last.
You were distracted by meds, rather than just going straight to the fix.
Yeah.
It's
ridiculous.
crazy.
It's really ridiculous, but that, you know, with a serious ailment can be extrapolated multiple times to a really serious issue. You know?
So that again, right turn. But I'm glad we spoke about that because I feel like, again, like I'm so big on mindset. I'm so big on fitness, being healthy in the mind and whatever. And a lot of that does come back to just you as a human can do so many more powerful things than you think if you just get it done. Yeah. But people don't because it's like distractions of, why would I go and work out, do ice baths, do breath work, whatever it is, when I can just get a pill for free off the NHS and I can feel great.
Yeah.
It's crazy, it's scary, but anyway, that was there
was an interesting
I like that.
fork we took there.
Yeah, a hard fork, there we go. Relating it back to crypto, no, I like that, I like that.
So, not a big fan of long-term projections, but next 12 months, have you got anything in your head? You know, I've heard mentions of a potential bull market coming this year in crypto, and personally, your plans for the next.
Yeah, so you're right in what you've heard. The way the crypto market normally works is it runs in cycles. So it usually runs off a thing called a Bitcoin halving cycle. Yeah. Every 4 years, there's a supply shock in the Bitcoin that's available each day. So we mentioned it before, there's a supply or a set supply that halves by 50%.
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years, right? So that's where the supply and demand aspect comes from. And it's also why a lot of people will relate, including us, will relate the Bitcoin halving to like, right, bull season, like upward season. For anyone that doesn't understand bull markets and bear markets, just to get a little bit kind of geeky on you all, but to help can understand. So bulls strike up and bears strike down. So it's not a crypto thing, it's an old stock market thing. So if anyone doesn't know what a bull market and a bear market is, now you know.
There you go.
But yeah, so we're in a kind of process at the moment of what some people might call a pre-bull. It's just, again, just some terms that are used where up until the halving, which is due in around April, May time, we don't know the exact dates. And the reason for that is it happens every 210,000 blocks. Right. So again, in terms of the blockchain and stuff, that's a whole other episode of podcast that we could do. But there's a set amount of blocks in each block. Blockchain is a chain of blocks, believe it or not. That's where the word blockchain comes from. So every 210,000 is when the new halving happens. So it's around April, May time. That means the supply gets done by 50%, which means supply goes down, but the interest is usually going up year on year. So that's where you tend to see a bit of a kind of spike in price. Well, that's what we normally think, but it's all then timed with charts as well. So it's, again, crypto's a crazy, crazy place when you really dive into it, because they've got a part of it where it's like media driven, but you've also got the part where it's actually driven by charts. And then you have this kind of like meet in between where it's like the chart's going to show that it's going to perform. Therefore, the media put out positive news articles to get retail investors in to help flood that as well. But it wasn't just because Tom, Dick and Harry invested 100 quid that the price went up. Yeah. Fundamentally, there was big guys in the background, Wall Street guys, whoever it is that control this market, pumping their money in. And they needed you, because the guys that own Wall Street are in Wall Street also own the media companies as well, which people don't understand. So they're obviously going to help pump their bags by putting out these media things. So that's what you'll tend to see over the next few months, over the next 6 months, 12 months as well, I guess, is you'll start to see a lot more positivity. Yeah. Think of the Bitcoin ETF news that's just came out in January. That's been spoken about for years, and I do a Coffee and Crypto live stream where most mornings, I try and do it most mornings, I talk about the news. I've been speaking about ETFs for a long time, well over a year. It's been there, and it's always been a thing in crypto, or ETFs are coming, which, for anyone who doesn't know, basically Bitcoin's not a publicly traded thing. It's on an exchange, a crypto exchange. It's not a Wall Street thing. It never was supposed to be, but these ETFs have made it possible for the conventional investor to invest in Bitcoin now, right? But
which ultimately goes back to probably pension funds coming into it and all that sort of stuff.
well, they realize the power of it, and they realize that I can buy it from a crypto exchange. I need to buy it from a regulated exchange.
Yeah.
So let's push this thing forward, and let's get a fund created that we can do that. So it's actually, as a Bitcoiner or as a crypto person, it's not a good thing, because it goes against completely the whole point of Bitcoin. It is the complete opposite. Like, Bitcoin was created not to be in the normal world. It's like money, like, against the government as such, anti-establishment. Now it is part of the establishment. But anyway, that's why people are now just essentially using it as an investment. But anyway, plans for the next 12 months, like I said, like, the Bitcoin halving is one of the most important, in my opinion, parts of it. Every 4 years it happens. You tend to have a bull market and a bear market. We've just been through a horrible bear market the past 2 and a bit years.
Yeah.
Which is horrible for prices, but it's the best time, not financial advice, the best time factually to invest, because, well, you buy low and you sell high.
Of course.
Very, very easy to say, but because crypto moves so much, so volatile each day, it's hard to really live in it day by day. It's not until you zoom out, and it's what we do a lot, is zooming out and realising that, well, it was low here and that's when I bought it, and it's going to be high here based on what my projections are. What I'll do is I'll buy it here in the low part and I'll sell it when it's high. Pretty obvious, right? But no one ever applies. Yeah, never applies that logic. So yeah, over the next 12 months, I do believe that we will kind of start to see things pick up, and it has picked up since Q4 of 2023 actually.
Yeah.
And it's continued to kind of really, well, I say continue to go up. It's kind of slumped at the moment, but that's just part of it. It can't go up forever. So we've had 3 really, really good months, but that was in the build up to the ETF stuff. Right. So again, there was someone controlling that.
They knew the plug in the media with loads of positive news, new product coming out, because, and again, it goes back to all those movies we were talking about at the start of that people should watch to understand the financial crisis and realise that Wall Street is at the root of a lot of what goes on financially.
And that's exactly what happened. If you look at a chart, what happened when the Bitcoin ETF went live, it's done nothing but went down since then.
Yeah.
But people are like, that's it. When the big money comes in, that's us, we're going to 100 grand. And it's like, nah, I think we're going to go down actually, because it's like buy the rumor, sell
too much hype.
Yeah.
Too much hype.
And that's the unfortunate, but also I guess fortunate thing about crypto is it's still such a small asset class that buy the rumor, sell the news still happens a lot.
Yeah.
As long as you understand that and know when, you can play it in your favour. But yeah, 12 months is looking fruitful, shall we say?
Yeah.
Based on what, again, we just based on what's happened before, because that's all you can do. It's all speculation at the end of the day.
And that's it, and it is a relatively new thing, so you don't have the depth of the history. You can't go back to the 1950s and see that the compound annual growth rate in the S&P 500 is 11% from 1950 and now. You don't have that level of data.
Exactly. So that's, again, when I mentioned it's like a tech stock and it performs like the S&P and whatever it may be, which is actually a scary thing to think about, because currently the S&P and the Nasdaq is up at pretty much all-time highs, and if you look at it on a chart, it's about to get to its highest point that it really can get to before it will turn over on itself.
Yeah.
Which is scary, because, well, Bitcoin acts the same way. So does that mean that when the Nasdaq and whatnot gets up there, that Bitcoin, which it probably will, or this will be its first test? Will it, when the market crashes, will Bitcoin continue to grow?
Yeah.
This is the real test. So we don't know, which is, again, speculation. It's scary, but you need to just kind of place your bets the best you can. So
it's where the massive opportunities. Where else are we looking at investments that are talking about the times multiplier of returns?
Absolutely nowhere. There's nothing. This is another thing as well. I often get questioned like, but do you invest in property or do you invest in stocks? I'm like, why?
Why would you?
Yeah. Obviously diversification is key, right? I get that, but when you think about it from what I've seen and what I've experienced tens of thousands of % gains from a year 2 years. It's like, why would I invest 100 grand to get 10%, maybe if the house sells, or 7% if that stock performs well? It just, the risk to reward's obviously a bit different because crypto, it could literally go to zero. And I get that, but investors like to take that risk. It's almost, people compare it to gambling and stuff, but I don't, because you put a bet on a horse, 100 grand, that horse loses, you lose that 100 grand. But you invest 100 grand into Bitcoin at 40k, it goes to 15k. You've lost a bit of money there, but unless you sell that asset, you haven't lost. Your value's decreased. But what happens 12 months down the line when it's 100k per Bitcoin and you've made double it, you know? So,
and that goes back to a lot of what Deck talked about in all this podcast is long-term investment, right? And too many people take a short-term view of investing. We see the same with all of our clients coming in on property investment is, you know, this isn't a short-term gain. This isn't a 90-day get-rich-quick scheme. You know, it can be very good over the long term, but short-term, you know, there'll be ups and downs.
That's the thing with crypto as well, because I apply that same logic. It's like, look, it's a long game, whatever it may be, but the problem we are then up against is like, crypto sometimes overnight can do hundreds of %. So that is a short-term gain. So people are like, yeah, I know, but I can make hundreds of %. I'm like, nah, yeah, true. So it's like, it is short-term, but it's better long-term, but you can do it in comparison to anything else, where else you get 100% overnight. Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, you kind of have to play into the both parts. But yeah, over the long term, and that's the thing, long term for crypto can mean 2 years. Like, it's everything's, the numbers and the volatility is so crazy in crypto, whether it's time or dollar value. So a long term investment in crypto to make you thousands of % can be 2 years. Yeah. Whereas in property, it could be a 30-year portfolio that makes you X amount. Exactly. You know, so it's all relative.
I think the important point for anybody that's looking at investment as a start of a journey, this is the future. You know, the future is going to be in digital currencies. Even the governments now are developing their own digital currencies, which is another fucking terrifying situation. Yeah. I was listening to someone the other day talking about the fact that we could have a situation where the government control what you spend.
Oh yeah, they will. That's the whole point of
spent enough on that this month, we're cutting you off, or you know, or taking taxes right at source day it's gone straight at you. Right?
They do something similar in China just now with the whole control. It's like a credit system where, I don't know if anyone's ever seen or you've seen the Black Mirror episode on Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. I didn't think that was a real thing, but apparently in China that is a kind of real thing. So that's similar to how the CBDCs will work, the central bank digital currencies will work, where it's a system. It's a point system. They will control how much money you get. That's another thing as well. Why the lower income will want it, because they're getting credited money no matter what. But then the problem for normal kind of investors or whatever it may be is like, well, they can switch on and switch off where you're spending, how much you're spending, how often you're spending. They can take the money from you. They can lock the account. So don't get me wrong, right? Money nowadays is pretty digital to an extent. Yeah. Like, everything's on your phone, it's an app, whatever it is, but there's still an aspect of you have a bit of control.
It's another level, you know, but, and you've still got cash within the system. So if you want to stay off the grid, you can to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's getting tougher now, I guess. But yeah, I'm not for CBDCs, but I'm for the future of digital currency. So it's like, it's where do you find that balance?
Yeah, it's just putting it in the hands of the government, but you know, anybody that seriously wants to look at diversifying, you know, crypto has to be the place to go.
100%, it just makes sense.
And you know, we probably would have been sitting here with our tin hats on a couple of years ago, and everybody would be thinking we're nuts talking about all this sort of stuff, and it's never going to go there. Now everybody's been through COVID and seen the shit that they did. You know, seen the restrictions they put on your life, the financial impact that had on everyone. It's a lot more believable.
Well, COVID was the get rich or die trying almost in business. So the other thing as well is COVID, in my opinion, should have shown people that this whole thing, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Well, that never happened more clearly than through COVID, because you think about it, some people don't think about it like this, but even now what's happening is the poorer are getting poorer, the middle class are getting poorer as well, and the richer are getting even richer. And that comes into a few things where it's, the biggest thing that we noticed in COVID was the stimulus checks, eat out to help out, all this nonsense we're giving people was like 90% of their wages, whatever it was. Yeah. People are thinking, oh, that's free money, and the people that are getting that free money or that payment, what are they doing with that money? They're spending it in restaurants. They're spending it on Amazon. They're spending it on whatever it may be, cars. Who owns those companies?
Yeah.
Rich guys.
Yeah.
So they're giving the money to the poor people or the poorer people of society, which is then causing that split to come even more, because the middle class are falling for it as well, because they don't know how the rich get richer. They just hear that term.
We'll print shitloads of money, which is just creation of more debt that's going to have to be paid for back in terms of inflation further down the line. Give it to these guys, let them spend it on crap because they're bored in their house and they've got nothing else to do. So the guys that own the companies get richer. The guys that get the money spend it all anyway, and then they pay for it further down the line when inflation hits.
Exactly. You know? That's again, it's the craziest thing, but it's so true. That's how the rich get richer and so the poor get poorer. COVID showed that.
And the other side of that is inflation for most wealthy and business owners who are leveraging debt just means their debt's getting cheaper. The more inflation, the better. You know, it's like inflation and the fact that the average person is spending all this money is actually reducing the value of my debt because that money is worth less.
Yeah, it's insane. And again, that's why I always say to people, and that level that I'm into is obviously a different level, but even just understanding that fundamentally is enough. Because people always talk about it, the rich don't pay any tax. It's like, no, they do, but they have got ways to move things around and how to borrow on debt and whatever it may be. They're not using their own money, so they don't have to pay tax on that loan. So
you don't pay tax on debt. You know?
It's insane. But again, it's such a shame to see that, like I said, the middle class is now becoming poor and rich. And that's facts as well. It's more clear in America. I focus a lot of my stuff on America as well because it's the land of the free. It's the land of the craziness, I guess. But a lot of what happens in America usually downstreams to the UK anyway. Yeah. But you see it a lot in America where it's like, again, there is pretty much no middle class now. It's either really rich people or really poor people. Yeah. And it came, it's been happening for years, but a lot of it came from COVID, and it's horrible to see. But again, like I said, it is happening in the UK, but people are just not switching on to it because there's so many more distractions.
I mean, time to put my tinfoil hat on.
I'll pass you over.
The reality is the time is now to wake up to this stuff, because the world is going to change at a rate that we can't even imagine just now. We spoke a lot about artificial intelligence last year and how quickly that stuff's moving, where guys like Mogul, who was at the forefront of a lot of the artificial development in Google, has said that we are talking about massive irrevocable changes in the world because of AI, not in the next 50 years, in the next 10 years plus. You know, we're talking about things that are on our doorstep that's going to lead to mass unemployment, you know, mass displacement of jobs, you know, and everybody compares it back to the industrial age where, you know, a lot of people lost their jobs to these machines. It's a different level when you have something that has the potential to be able to do everything that we do. Where do you end up?
And that's another reason why I think the whole CBDC talk comes in, because there's going to be mass unemployment. CBDCs will be, don't worry about that because we'll give you £400 a month. All right, cool. I don't have to work because I'm getting paid from the government. Yeah. So it's again, do you know what? It's funny because we often say tinfoil hat, but it's only because we're future thinkers. It usually becomes a reality. Like, obviously, we're not talking about flying cars and whatnot when you've got a tinfoil hat on, but when you're thinking about hard truths that will probably come into effect, are you tinfoil hat or are you just intelligent? It's like, where's that line? Because again, it goes back to when I was talking about crypto to all these guys in the bank and I was that weirdo. It's like now they're clients, or now they're the ones questioning me. So it's the same thing, and with the AI and whatnot, it's like, it's coming. And it's coming faster than you think. I think that people are too late to switch on. And I think that sounds crazy, but I think the time to switch on was in 2020. Because one, you had time because you were not working. Two, it was happening in front of you day by day. So like, if you needed more of a reality check, you were getting it every single day. Nowadays, things are a bit more normal, I guess. So one, you're back at work. You're back doing all the overtime. You're back being underpaid and overworked. You don't have time to think about, what if my job gets taken off me by a robot or a system? You're just, that AI or whatever it may be. But
it's just a funny little thing in the internet that you can type in, you know, play about with ChatGPT or something. It's just a game.
Everyone,
people, but
like, honestly, like, people are, I mean, we're all on borrowed time for a start, right? But people nowadays, like, not that you're too late, and maybe I should say you're too late to try and kind of inspire some more people, but you are too late because time is already ran out. You're now on borrowed time. So learn something quick before a robot takes over.
And this is my feeling, you know. I feel like we could be heading to, I mean, we're heading fast track into the unknown, which could mean, in a very real case, that this is your opportunity to change the wealth dial. And if you go into the unknown having not done that and you're stuck at the bottom end, I would hate to see where you're going to be when artificial intelligence lands and all these jobs are displaced. Because, you know, if you've created wealth, you've got options. You're always going to have options.
Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like people think that you're arrogant because you're so focused on that. But it's like, I'm focused on it because you're not focused on it, because I know what's coming and I know how I want to play it out. You don't know what's coming, or you think you know what's coming. It's like, I don't want to fuck around and find out, as you say. I'd rather know, right, that could happen. How can I not fall into that trap? And again, it's between arrogance and intelligence. It's often very confused, I feel, because I'm intelligent in terms of what I want for myself, my family, the future of crypto or cars or whatever it is. But because I'm so passionate about it, and because if you talk to me about what you watched on TV, I'm like, that's nonsense. I don't care. Let's talk about this. It's like, oh, that guy's a bit rude. It's like, no, I don't think that watching things on TV is going to help me not be stuck in a system for the rest of my life. So yeah, I don't watch TV, I don't watch the news, I don't follow any type of nonsense that you find on Netflix, none of that. I strive every single day to win, whatever it is I do. And at one point I did get a little bit too focused on self-development and almost like try to over self-development, which is a bad place to be, which is a strange thing, because you're like, well, I'm trying to get better, but I'm so obsessed with getting better that I'm forgetting to live a life.
Yeah.
You know? So
you can, I get that, and I find through that process I also need to take some rest, recovery, downtime, I guess try and switch off occasionally, and finding the ways to do that. Yeah, for me, I play tennis, and like in that hour there's nothing I can think about other than where's that ball going. Yeah, like a dog.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
But it's cathartic in a way, because it does, you know, it gives you time to switch off, recharge, and
and you need it. And like, again, I don't really do, I go to the gym quite often, and I guess that's my switch off. But usually I end up talking to my coach about business or about crypto. But for me, that's still switching off, because it's, like I said, it's something that I'd done every day of my life anyway. That's how Crypto Glasgow started. Again, it was just an organic process. We were doing it. We thought, right, we're both out of work at the moment. Let's try and turn these questions people are asking us into a business. And it just grew and grew and grew. So what we do, again, we still say this to this day, is we just share our journey. Yeah. If you want to get on board and follow that journey, by all means do it. We can't offer any type of financial advice, unfortunately, in the UK. So if you want to follow our journey and what we are investing in and what we are doing and what we're talking about, do it, because we're going to do it, and we are doing it.
Yeah. It shares a lot of similarities with our business, Real Property Scotland, where we have a network of property investors. You know, we just share what we do. You know, we're one of Scotland's biggest private landlords, so we share the journey and how we've done that and how we've developed it, how we do it. You know, you need to be careful, the whole financial advice thing, but what we've built around that is a really strong community of people all kind of heading in the right direction.
I was going to say, hang on a minute, the wrong direction.
And you know, and you can just achieve so much more when you've got that sense of community. So, you know, I love the concept with Crypto Glasgow, and I totally get how it works, because I see in our business.
Community is so powerful, and it's not something that we focused on at the start. It's not until it happened, and even more recently, like the power of our community when it comes to like getting behind projects or like just striving up some interest in things is insane. We've recently just the past kind of few weeks spoken about new projects, and people are investing in it and stuff, and see the influence that you can generate towards like a project, whether it's raising capital or whatever it may be. We don't think about that until, again, it's reality. But you're like, hang on a minute, this is something that we built in my flat one night. Yeah. Just, there was no real reason behind it. We just thought, oh, people are asking us questions, let's see what we can do with this. Again, to be honest, the story of Crypto Glasgow is super, I guess, inspiring, because it was just two guys in my flat one night deciding, let's try and do this. Me and Dec have always tried to get something going. We tried to have a watch cleaning business because we really like watches at one point. Tried buying and selling things because we were just like the kind of, that's what we wanted to do. But never really took off. But our passion was in investing and in crypto, and it turns out, well, that's what we're supposed to do. But yeah, the whole story of it, I was touching it slightly, but that could be another episode in itself, because there was so many moving parts in our journey. Like we went to Dubai at the end of 2020. That helped us massively as well, because it kind of paints that picture of the investment. Like, all right, these guys are in Dubai living the life, so that must mean that it's because of this. And partly it was because of that, but partly it's because that's what we want from our life.
Yeah.
So we couldn't technically afford to be going and just blowing money on whatever it may be, but it's like what I said earlier, it's like, what if it could turn out better than you can imagine? And the contacts we made on that trip back, the company was 6 months old. We didn't have a clue what was going on. We were just like, it was all a bit crazy, but the connections we made then and the experiences we made then helped us paint the kind of the path for what you now see now is, with Crypto Glasgow, we've also got Certified Crypto, which is basically like our online world. So Crypto Glasgow and the business kind of split was, because we're doing a lot more in-person stuff, so we do like group training, we do events, we're moving into events, we do our one-to-ones in person. So we wanted a kind of IRL, as we call it, in real life thing, to be Crypto Glasgow, because we're primarily focused, are based in here. But then Certified Crypto is like our YouTube channel, anything we do online, because it's like that online
it's
persona.
the distinction between the two.
Yeah, but it's still the same two guys, still everything's the same, the members are the same, everything's the same, but it's just because the business has just grew that many arms and legs, it's like, right, hang on a minute, we need to kind of manage this a little bit more. And more will come as more things land.
It's going to grow and change, and we've seen massive change in our business last year, because everything started on a training course. It started from that basis, and then we realised, okay, well, our guys really aren't having. We thought the content of the course was phenomenal, but we just weren't seeing results from the guys at the other side, and the average complaint was they just couldn't find the deals. There's below market value deals to get going. So we created another business that fed those below market value deals.
Okay, right.
And then, it was helping them get through those first deals where, they could execute and refinance and get the money out. And so it became more of a mentorship thing than a training thing. Yep. Now all the training's online, and we still do live events, but it's networking. It's supporting the community.
Yeah.
We do more consultancy, one-to-one mentorship to help people get through their deals, as well as trading all their deals. And honestly, that business is 10x'd in the year.
Wow.
Just through those couple of changes that we made of supporting people a bit more and trading deals.
Wow. It just goes to show you that, I guess we do that as well without even thinking about it, because we've got the courses, and it tends to be people that are members that would come on the course.
Yeah.
So they learn everything on the course. Maybe they've had a one-to-one before, or they'll go on the course, take what they need from it. Then they might need a little top-up, so they'll come in for a one-to-one. But the whole time, they're also in our community as well, so they're also asking questions. We do live streams, so similar to yourself, that you have, it's all you.
Yeah.
But you're just making sure that there's a part for every single kind of play, where that one person can be fed into what, 5 different of your businesses almost.
Yeah.
But it's all
geared towards how can we support the clients better. And okay, that comes down to business and monetizing and all that sort of stuff, but it's about what are the next 5 changes we're going to make to make the product better, make the service better, make the
100%. That's, again, communities at our backbone, because without them, there's no us.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people forget that as well. They think that they're just the business people will come. People will come, build it, and they will come, as I like to say, but the community is so powerful, and trying to keep that retention and keep things moving for them. Yeah. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, we've had a few people on the courses that weren't members, and that's even cooler, because it's like the commitment that you've had just from watching a few videos or whatever it may be. But normally it's our community that come on there. But again, it's showing that we have a product, or we have something that will help you grow. Yeah. Whether it's a 5-day course, whether it's a phone call, whether it's come down to the office, whether it's a meetup that we do, whether it's joining in a live stream, a Q&A, like we try and cover every aspect, because we're kind of like a one-stop shop almost. We're kind of one of the only, we're the largest in Scotland, but we're one of the largest in the UK. And that has just been built up from just filling the gaps and making it a one-stop shop, because we've got a lot of friends. To be honest, actually thinking what I've just said there, we're probably the largest in the UK for what we do, because we are, I hate using the word, but we are classed as influencers in the space, right? Yeah. Normally the influencers in our space are just YouTubers. So they don't have consultancies, they don't have courses, they don't have training, anything like that. They are just YouTubers. So technically speaking, actually, it's a bit of a reflection instantly, but we are the largest in the UK for what we do because we are so specialised in.
Yeah.
We do the in real life stuff, but we also live that online basis as well. So we kind of cover every aspect.
It gives you a broader, bigger geographical pool.
Yeah,
you know.
which again is crazy because we are technically called Crypto Glasgow, but we're not pigeonholed to Glasgow. We've got clients from all over the world, which again is still blows my mind every time. We had someone fly in from Doha to come to the course.
Wow.
We've had people from Dubai, guys from Fife. That's quite far away from Glasgow. Guys from Ireland. Like, people will come and you're like, hang on a minute, this is Crypto Glasgow. But we've got friends in America that follow us, people that view us from all over the place. So it's not really pigeonholed because as long as the content's there, you could be called whatever you want. Like, you could be called don't invest in crypto, but if your content's good, people are going to watch it. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of what we found is like, that's why we're so specialised, because we don't have as many followers, as many members as some of these big YouTubers have, but we've got more pull when it comes to the community.
It's all about having engaged followers.
Correct.
You can have 1 million followers that dip in and out, but if you have 2,000 fully engaged, fully committed, that is more valuable than anything.
100%. And that's something that the crypto space hasn't quite caught up with yet, because you see all these crazy big YouTubers that have got hundreds of thousands of subscribers getting all these invites to the Formula One and getting all these this plush treatment, when in fact their community is a couple hundred people that actually buy from them and actually engage with them. Whereas we've got a smaller number, but we've got a higher kind of rate of engagement. People that trust us. And we've got guys, which is again is super cool to think about. We've got guys that have followed us from day one. That are still with us. That's insane for almost 4 years.
That's insane. It's really an awesome testament to what you guys do. You know, the fact that you have that loyalty from you.
100%. And again, we appreciate it because we don't realise that until we do a meetup. It's like, oh, you recognise that person, you ask the story, and it's like, yeah, I've watched you guys since you're flat. And I'm like, wow. Because the company will be 4 years old in May.
Wow.
Which even that to think about is a credit to ourselves for keeping it going for so long, because unfortunately Scotland's a small place, but there was maybe 5, probably more than that, maybe about 7 or 8 different companies that started up trying to do what we did. I guess it's cute. It's nice. It's cool to see to an extent, because you created this monster that they want to replicate. None of them are still around. So again, it's kind of give yourself flowers, as I like to say. It's like, me and Deck don't do that enough. We don't give ourselves our flowers, because it's like we've built an amazing community over 4 years and kept it going. Not once dipped and decided to try and leave, whereas 99% of every other company
it's tried. It's a question of entrepreneurship, I think, where you're just always focused on, right, what's next? What's the next move? What's the next play? You don't take time to kind of reflect on, what you've built and where it started and all that. And I think it's good to give yourself a bit of credit every so often, because, it can be pretty tough, the journey. So, without giving yourself a bit of credit, we are guilty of the same. Laurie always, like, when we have the Christmas shutdown, he always likes to be the last person to leave the office and put the lights off at Christmas, because he does it every year, and it's like his...
That must be nice, getting some time off. What does that feel like?
I would honestly, massively important for us, because that 2 week shutdown at Christmas, only time of the year that things... And for us, it's the solicitors are shut down, so it's a transaction shutdown. Everything stops. And because we're all off, we all come back with this just revived energy for getting into things, pushing the year, and it's really important, because you don't get any of that time. We're going on holiday through the year, but you're still on WhatsApp.
We're the same. We don't. That's I guess it's not a negative. I enjoy it, but that's a pro and con of crypto. Our business, it's 24/7, 365. And whether we like it or not, whether your investments are moving or whether the business is moving, there is no time off, no matter what. But again, I enjoy that. But it's hard to maybe be around someone like that, because it's just constant, and it's not. We don't have set hours. It's just, we need to work. Oh, it's 12 o'clock at night. We need to work. It's 7 in the morning. It does not matter. It's get up and go.
Basically, commitment. But it's the pressure and privilege at the same time.
100%. I wouldn't change it for the world. Definitely not. The kind of freedom and the flexibility that you have. It's stressful at times, but business is supposed to be stressful. Being a man is supposed to be stressful. It's not meant to be easy.
No.
And
if it is, you're doing something wrong.
Correct.
Don, thanks a lot for this. I'll always end the podcast with the same question. And that is, what does real wealth mean to you?
I've actually touched on it a few times. It's not what most people would answer, having loads of money, because that tends to be the answer. Wealth and being rich is different as well, which people fundamentally don't understand. But for me, again, maybe this is a boring answer, but I feel wealth is more about how I feel as a man, as a father, as a partner, as a son, whatever it may be, because that, again, is mindset. I'm more focused on my mindset than my pockets, because I know if my mindset's right, my pockets will follow. So it's, that would be my kind of final leaving point. It's like, don't focus too much on the pocket, focus on the mind, focus on the heart. Do what you can to feel better, do better, look better, because trust me when I say, when you do that, the money will come, and the wealth that people would call it, the richness, that comes. But that would be, that's probably my point. Don't know if that's a boring way to say about wealth, because people usually go, I want properties, I want to have all this money invested, but
that's usually the wrong answer.
Exactly.
And that's someone that's early on the wealth journey, because you tend to find the journey of entrepreneurship or building wealth kind of beats that stuff out of you, the short-term shiny thing focus,
Well, the other thing as well, and you mentioned it there, the journey, like, there is never, in my opinion, a destination. There should never be a destination. There should only ever be a journey, because on that journey you will essentially get what you want without realising it. So whether the wealth comes, whatever it may be, it's more important. The journey's everything, man.
Like, life is growth, and if you're not growing, you're dying. So why would there ever be a destination to the journey? And every entrepreneur talks about this. So many of them have said the day they sold their company was the worst day of their life, because you've committed to it. What is next? Unless you have a really clear vision of what's after that, what you're going to sit with a bank account full of money. I mean, that's not going to fulfill many people.
It's scary. It's a scary thought, and I think about it quite often as well, because I'm so focused on crypto. It's like, right, when I get or tick a few goals along the way, along the journey, it's like, what happens if I tick enough boxes where I've run out of boxes to tick in that world? What do I do? So that's why it's like there's no destination, and it's why people talk about, I want to be successful. It's like, well, that sounds like a destination. Success. I want to be successful sounds like the destination is success. But if you were to actually look back on what success is, the success is the successes that make the success. So again, the journey. So kind of, again, a little bit of a right turn there. But one thing I would say to everyone is, don't think too much about the wealth. Think about don't think about the destination. It's like, think of the journey, think of the head, think of the mindset, and model your mind after mine, and you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
Well. I think for me the thing that I repeat quite a lot on this podcast, and I think it's just so important, most people don't even reflect enough to understand what their ideal life would look like. And there's so many distractions in the world that it's easy to do that.
100%.
One of the number one things, and again, it all goes back to mindset, but understanding what a world on your own terms would look like, and that all feeds back into real wealth, because wealth is more holistic than money. It's about well-being. It's about having, things that fulfill you, fill up your cup rather than empty it. So, most people don't even get to that point, and they'll just distract themselves all day rather than deal with these big questions.
I recently went through a bit of a kind of change in life, shall we say, without getting into the kind of roots of it, but reflection's only been something recent for me, which was a downfall of me as well, I think, because reflecting back now over the past kind of month, I really get focused on it. I'm like, wow, if I did this 6 months prior, I could have been in an even better position. So reflection's super, super key. It's why I've always been passionate about mindset, but reflection's not something that I've ever did, because I've always been chasing that next thing, the next part of the journey, the next tick box. So reflection is probably one of the most important things that I've learned. I've got a life coach that I work with now as well, and he's really, really helped with that. And again, unfortunately, it came from a bad situation that I've had to then start changing a little bit in terms of reflecting. But like I've said, it's changed my focus for today, tomorrow, the future, even the past, I guess. Completely different. How I view everything is not completely different. I'm still very early on in my journey of reflection and whatnot and acceptance, but it's super important. And reflection, again, I mentioned it before, it's like, give yourself flowers. I don't know if you've heard that term before.
Uh-huh.
So people don't, especially men only get their flowers at their funeral, and it's usually too late because, well, it's your funeral, innit? So
Absolutely.
Reflect on your achievements, but reflect on yourself as a person as well, and thank yourself and congratulate yourself. That doesn't mean go buy a car to congratulate yourself. I fell for that a few times. Just sit back, relax, enjoy the fact that what you've built as a man, as a business partner, whatever it may be, is enough. And it doesn't have to be a monthly sit down. Have a reflection each day, each week, each month. It doesn't matter. Reflect on the previous hour if you want. I don't care. Just reflect and understand where you've came from and how you've managed to deal with that situation. So, yeah, totally went a bit mindset on you there. But again, it helps me in my business so much. It helps me generate wealth because I'm focused on what fundamentally matters.
I mentioned this quite a lot in the podcast because it's a book that I love. The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, and it can be boiled down to a 60-minute formula in the morning, 5 a.m, where you kind of take 3 20-minute pockets. With the first is to wake yourself up, so you're not only up early, but you're awake. Your cortisol levels are under control, which is kind of the stress hormone. So bit of exercise sorts that out, brings them down. You're focused, you're awake. Next pocket is reflection. So it's like looking back over yesterday, what worked, what didn't work, what would today look like, how can I get more out of it, what are my key targets for today. And the last pocket is kind of self-development. Right. You know, whether it's listening to podcasts, reading a book, you know, how can I get better in what I do? And it's just like an hour every day. It's been life-changing for me because it just leads to a different outcome in the day. Yeah. You know,
it forces you to, the key part of that is probably the reflection. The waking up and whatnot, you need to wake up anyway. So no matter what, you're going to do that wake up period, but the pocket of reflection, people will probably skip that and go straight to breakfast and go to work. So that's probably, again, you could tell me, but the reflection part, you probably feels mindset wise is probably the most important, because
it's especially as 90% of people all procrastinate away from the real key value added activities because they're hard.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're saying like, these are the things that are going to move the dial today, I must get them done, and everything else can just fit into available slots beyond that.
Just checking in with yourself. Yeah. Like, no one does that because it's scary, because like, what I said yesterday, what I did yesterday wasn't great. But it's like, that's good. That feed that, use that is the next pocket of self-development. So that's why I feel like maybe the reflection part might be key for people, because without that reflection, how can you self-develop on
very few people,
you know?
do it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a scary place to live, like I said, these days, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the challenges.
There's certainly going to be a lot of them coming.
Oh yes. Good.
But we're geared, we're ready.
Yeah, good.
Don, thanks a million for this. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to have you here. This has been the Real Wealth Podcast. I'm Alex Robertson, and thanks for joining us on this wealth journey.